Welcome back to RATG, Ryan's All Things Geek, right here on 103.7 FM, Brock University Radio. Or you can be listening to us live online at cfbu.ca.
Black magic. You got to know, got to show.
This is RATG Radio, and I'm sitting here with the father of the XMen himself, Mr. Chris Claremont. An absolute pleasure, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this interview with us.
My pleasure.
So we're at Niagara Falls Comic Con. What do you think of Niagara Falls Comic Con so far?
It's a very nice, big, rectangular room with wooden ceiling. Well, actually, they're metal grid, structural grid, and the sun is shining through the window, which is better than it was this morning.
This is very true.
It's a lovely city with a great view, and it's disconcerting to figure out which direction you're looking in because, wait, shouldn't the sun be rising over there or setting over there? Or which side of the river are we on? Are we looking north or south? Or whose falls are these?
Yeah, you're on the Canadian side. Now, you're from California, are you? I know originally you're London, England, right?
California?
Well, I was just assuming you're saying, not knowing which way to look. I just took a leap there. That is my mutant power, is to make the most horrible assumptions ever.
Dude, I'm from New York.
Oh, hey, forget
What's
about
this?
it.
Hey,
Forget
don't you
about
make
it. Hey,
no remarks here.
hey, listen.
I will remonstrate with you in a manner that will leave you very concerned.
I am actually concerned. Now, that's a great Brooklyn accent or New York accent. I don't detect any British accent whatsoever at all. How long have you been North America? Like, did you move here as a child, or?
I like to think of it as I was kidnapped by pirates at a very young age. Not quite as young as that bloke in Pirates of the Caribbean, but pretty young.
Nice.
Rationing just was not fun.
Understandable.
You can only eat so many K rations. Yeah. So my mum came
here.
Yeah.
All right. So can I? Obviously, everyone knows you for your X-Men past, and obviously still doing stuff now. What kind of influence did you have when you were growing up? Were you a comic book reader when you were young?
Not American comics, no. American comics were kind of boring.
Yeah.
My gran would send me, I had a perpetual subscription to a British magazine called Eagle, which was comic books and articles, or comic strips and articles, of which my favorite was Dan Dare, Sky Pilot of the Spaceways. Basically the Royal Air Force in outer space.
Nice.
Global, but, and it was pure Star Trek in the sense it was stalwart captain, admirable, quote-unquote romantic interest, stalwart companion, Digby, his batsman, Sir Hubert Guest, the head of Space Command, and of course, the evil Mekon, who is ruler of the Venusian, not Therms. Oh God, I can't remember. Anyway, Venusians who were hostile. And you basically had space invasions, giant monsters. The most exciting episode sequence, which was a comet passes by Earth and drops clouds on the planet, which turn into parasites, which kill people.
Oh wow!
So it was a very ecological story.
Seems really ahead of its time.
Oh, it was the 50s. It was very cool.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Now, has that ever been redone?
No.
Maybe something for the future.
Well, they did. They tried bringing it back, and I think Garth Ennis or one of one of the young Turks then of British scripting got the job.
Him or Grant Morrison?
No, Grant was way out of their league
really?
at that point. Oh yeah.
Now, who do you look to now as the bright up-and-coming writers and creators in the comic world?
I have no idea.
No?
I literally haven't read a comic in years.
Oh, really?
I'm not their audience.
Yeah, true. So the last comic for you, though, was what, the Extreme X-Men? Or Nightcrawler. Oh, nice. Now, what is it that keeps bringing you back to the X-Men?
Editor calls up and says, you want to write an X-Men?
And unlike a lot of other writers that have been writing as long as you haven't lost. And I don't even mean to say that lost it.
Lost what?
Lost that storytelling ability. I mean your storytelling ability, because I see a lot of writers that had their own style, and now when they come back now, like say an Alan Moore or even Frank Miller, it seems that their style has even changed a bit. And of course you're going to adapt over time.
They've evolved and grown over the course of time, whereas other writers have stayed locked in their oeuvre.
Yeah.
You could.
What works?
It all depends on your perspective. I have no idea. My ambition is just to tell the story in the most exciting and attractive way possible for the reader. It's just that at this stage, I think editors are more simpatico with people who've come along since I left.
Yeah.
That's their prerogative. That's, again, why I try not to do comics. I try not to do stuff for Marvel. Unless I'm asked, because it's just, I don't want to force myself on them, and if they have a job they think I'm right for, they can call.
Awesome. I guess the last thing, because you've got fans here, and I don't want to take up all your time, sir. Last thing, obviously the X-Men is a huge part of all of our, especially people from my era that were in their 40s now. It was so huge for us. You tackled diversity, and not only just, and I know you get this question a lot, but you're not just diversifying yourself when it comes to, mutants being different. Like, you were a big proponent for female characters in comics as well. Was that a conscious effort, or did you just know?
What do you mean by conscious effort?
Like, did you consciously think, hey, I'm going to make sure that Jean Grey's not going to be, the damsel in distress all the time, or I'm going to make a strong Aurora or Kitty Pryde?
I think partly, well, first of all, if you want a reason why our Dave and I, Smitty and I, everyone, Louise and I tried to make the X-Men as diverse as possible. Just look around this room.
Right.
How many of the guests here are Caucasian European? How many aren't?
Right.
How many are men? How many are women? You want the comics, the heroes in the comics, I think, or the villains, to represent the full spectrum of modern society. Portentous as that may sound. And that means grab from every source imaginable. I mean, why restrict yourself to a small section of the globe when there are so many other fascinating, interesting cultures, societies, colors to choose from?
Was Sunfire one of yours?
Yeah. No, he was actually, I think that was but first name that comes to mind is Roy Thomas, but it might have been a little before him, I'm not sure. But no, he's from the first iteration of the X-Men.
Okay.
But, it's the thing about comics is you can grab from anywhere and put examples of that culture, of those personas in the books, and it will cost you nothing. Whereas if you want to go out and hire the right actress to play the role or the right actor to play the role, it's going to cost.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something we can get into another time, because I know you've got so much to say about the movies.
No. The thing with a comic series is we're telling a chapter at a time of an ongoing story. People say, what's my favorite issue of X-Men? I would say 94 to 279 inclusive, because to me it's all one coherent entity. It's got little chapters in it, but it's all one story, the story of their lives. You could not do that in a movie. You could do it ideally in a TV series. And nowadays, with the size of flat screens, with the budget, you could do the X-Men as the modern equivalent of Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And it would be just as much fun, I would suspect. And you would introduce a whole new cast of characters, of actors playing the characters. But it all comes down to how you want to tell the story and how you want to deal with the characters. And you want to make them believable, you want suspense, you want excitement, you want drama. On one level, that's not quite it doesn't seem like a hard challenge, but that's I guess what makes this all a horse race, and what makes one group of creators different from another.
Well, sometimes the hardest choices are the most obvious, I guess. Like they're right there in front of you a lot of times.
Well, if someone had told Jean Grey that by flying the space shuttle, she becomes Phoenix. By becoming Phoenix, she destroys a planet. Would she do it? Or would she let someone else do it for her and die? Or would the sacrifice of the X-Men be a fair exchange for the survival of the race on Debari? That's actually not a bad what if.
That's a great what if.
Especially if some of them survived. Or what if they survived, but they were changed, maimed, something, FF'd to a certain extent.
And they kind of touch upon that I know you don't read comics now, but with the all-new X-Men, I don't know if you know anything about that. They've taken the original 5 X-Men before your time and brought them from the past into the future.
Yeah, but that...
So Jean's dealing with having to know that she had already become the Phoenix.
She's not dealing with it, because if unless you're going to accept the postulate that they're a different dimension, which, bluntly, the minute they come to the future, they are a different dimension.
They created a new one.
Everything that happens here will, of necessity, be erased when they go back in their minds, because otherwise, why don't any of the 5 of them remember it?
Exactly.
And if you're going to do it that way, then you've got to also do it well. Why isn't Jean friends with Aurora? Why aren't the relationships of the X-Men? See, the weird thing, the fallacy for me in that concept is, if you accept the predicate that the X-Men occur in quote-unquote real time, then the original 5 characters are all of maybe 3 years removed from the new X-Men in their perception. So you're talking about, wow, they came from the world of Obama's first administration to the world of his second administration. Okay, if you really want to stretch it, the world of his inauguration to the world of the Trump, but how is that such a, unless you're talking 1939 to 1945, that's not a big leap.
Right.
So what's the big change? And the thing is, if you're going to do this with Jean, maybe the question, I mean, the what if I would be interested in playing with is, what if they came to the fight at the end and she tries to kill herself and it doesn't work? Right. What if she is Phoenix, she can't get rid of it, she's stuck with it, what then? There's another, I mean...
The possibilities are endless.
Well, the possibility is limited only by the imagination of the writer to create concepts and the imagination of the editor to approve or disapprove them. Mm-hmm. But it would be, what do you do if you take the team that from the past, what if that Jean becomes Phoenix? But is there a Jean existing in the present?
Yeah, it's the Jean from the past in the present now, but the present Jean is still
Or what if
deceased.
All that happens is she becomes Phoenix and it's the same woman?
Yeah, it's a paradox.
No, why?
It could be a paradox, I guess.
It's
all depends on the writer, like you said.
Well, and the facility of the artist. I mean, give me Olivia Coppell for 6 issues and I'll give you a Phoenix story with that arc that I suspect will knock your socks off.
Oh, definitely.
I'd like to think. But, that's not a direction that Marvel seems interested in going, because it forecloses dramatic opportunities for the old X-Men team in the modern day. I mean, the reason I'm dismissive of it is that so all the experience and all they learn and all that they draw from this is lost when they go back in time, because it has to be forgotten. Even more to the point, from a reader's standpoint, what suspense do I have?
Right.
Because you can't kill any of them off, because if you kill off Hank from the past X-Men, if they are indeed the past X-Men, what happens to our Hank?
Mm-hmm. And they do touch upon that in the books quite a bit.
Well, it would be more, why talk? You don't talk in comics, you're supposed to do. But the flip side of the coin also is, again, this is why my original idea, counter idea to the resurrection of Jean was to have Scott and Madeline come back to the team and just do X Factor as originally conceived of, but instead of Jean, use her sister, whose power is to discover mutants. But more importantly, she becomes the romantic foil of potentially Bobby or Warren or Hank. Mm-hmm. And suddenly, romantically speaking, they're center stage. Scott and Madeline are on the sidelines, which enough already. They've had the Scott Jean shenanigans have had center stage now for going on 45 years. Yeah. Enough.
We had the Goblin Queen for a while.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know.
Scott and the Redhead, or Scott and Emma. I mean, you really want to be scandalous? Why don't you have Jean run off with Emma? That would be Emma's revenge on Scott.
I think that's a great way to end that. That is so awesome. Chris, you have got some fantastic stories. This has been a great pleasure for me, especially I've been a fan for so long. Thank you so much for doing this. Before we go, we have something here for you. Get that for you. We've got your shirt. I hope it fits. We don't expect you to see you wearing it all the time, but yeah, from us to you.
Thank you.
Just an absolute pleasure, and thanks so much, Chris, for being on the show. Large, good?
Yep,
yeah,
large is good.
Perfect. All right, well.
Wait, I didn't see the back before.
Oh, yeah, we went all Star Wars with it. So if you want to check out the show, now you know where to find us. So, again, Ryan Fleming here from RATG Radio with the legend himself, Mr. Chris Claremont. Thanks again so much. Awesome, sir.